Hello everyone and welcome to this week's soap making video. I am sorry it's been a few weeks since I've made a video. I have been unwell, I got COVID and it took me a few weeks to recover. But I am back and ready to make some soap. So because we missed a few weeks there, I am starting a new theme. This month's theme is Woodland Wander and I am looking at all things whimsical and wonderful about the woodlands. So I'm going to start off this season by making my campfire s'mores soap. So this video I'm kicking off by making some little marshmallow embellishments to go on the top of my soap, and I'm just making those with soap dough. I have rolled it out into a tube and then I squished down the ends to help flatten them and give it that beautiful marshmallowy kind of a shape. Now let's get started on making the soap. I have my hot oils and my lye water and they're both sitting at about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. My room is very hot today. It's about 95 degrees in my soap studio, which means that my soap is not behaving as well as I would like it to. You can see as I'm pulling up my spatula, the soap at the bottom of my bucket is nice and thick, whereas I still have a lot of oils floating on the top. When this happens, I just use my spatula to pull that soap up to the top and get them mixed in as much as I can. It does take a little bit longer to get my oils and my soap emulsified, and that means that my soap is a little bit thicker, but that's okay. We will work nice and quickly on this soap and get it made. You can see that my oils are very dark today. I did render my tallow for just a little bit too long, which made it dark. That's not going to be a problem for this soap. The only light part of the soap is going to be the marshmallow layer, and I can use some zinc oxide to help lighten that up. Alright, I have my soap fully mixed. You can see that it is still lumpy and thicker on the bottom, so I've added about a quarter of it to my first bucket, then the middle half to my second bucket, and the last quarter back to my first bucket. And that means I get a nice even distribution of the soap into each section, and I will stick blend this as I add the layers. This first section is going to be my graham cracker crust, which is going to be the top and bottom section of the soap, but I want it to be the same color, so I'm adding my orange peel powder and cocoa powder to both sections before I split it off, and mixing that in with my spatula to evenly distribute it among the soap. And then I'm going to go ahead and split it off into these two smaller containers so that I can save half for later without it accelerating. Now that I have it split in half, I'm going to use my stick blender to fully disperse that colorant into my soap, and you can see that the orange peel powder is lightening my soap up into a nice tan graham crackery crust kind of a color. And I'm going to go ahead and add my essential oils. So the essential oils that I'm using today are lemongrass, spearmint, grapefruit and orange. This is one of my favorite essential oil blends to use. It is beautiful and fresh and sweet and fruity. The spearmint just takes the edge off the sweetness in that fruit essential oil blend. I just love this blend. Alright, I have my molds and I'm going to go ahead and split my soap batter between my two molds to get my nice graham cracker crust. And I'm going to go ahead and scrape out my container so that I can use it for the next layer. Once I have all of my soap in my molds, I am going to tap them down on my work surface to even out those layers as much as I can. I don't need it to be completely smooth, but I do want all the bars to be nice and even. I'm working on my second bucket now and I'm splitting off just a little bit of the soap for the chocolate layer. I want about a quarter of what's in my big bucket for the chocolate layer and about 3/4 for my marshmallow layer. Now I'm going to work on the marshmallow layer first, so I'm going to add my zinc oxide into my soap and my essential oil blend. Now as I said earlier, the dark color of my tallow is working against me at this stage, and then the orange essential oil adds a orange tinge to my soap. So I am adding about 2 tablespoons of zinc oxide to get this a nice light white color. I want this soap to look like my marshmallow is oozing down the side of my graham cracker base, and like it's about to dribble down your arm. So I started off with my bucket nice and high and dribbled one line into the edge of my soap, and that's gonna create a nice wide drop for my marshmallow. And then I brought my container nice and close to the mold and added the rest of that marshmallow in. Once I got that all in, I tapped it down to level it out, and then I'm working on the chocolate layer. I've added some cocoa powder to color this, so it's going to be a very realistic chocolatey layer. And I want this to look like the chocolate is dribbling down over that marshmallow again. I want some more dribbles because the chocolate's usually thinner than the marshmallow. So I'm doing 2 to 3 drop passes with my cocoa, and I'm starting higher so that the drop swirl goes a little bit further down into the marshmallow. Then I'm bringing my container nice and close to the top of that soap and wiggling it back and forward to spread that soap out over the top of the marshmallow and give me a nice chocolatey layer. And then I'm going to go ahead once again and scrape out my container. Once I have this in, as with the previous layers, I will go ahead and tap down my mold and get all of that soap nice and level, and then start working on my final graham cracker layer. This has thickened up a little bit, but I am going to go ahead and use my stick blender to disperse those colorants that we've already placed in there, and the stick blender will actually loosen this up a little bit. Once I'm happy I've got all of that evenly distributed, I've added the rest of my essential oil blend, and I'm mixing that in with my spatula. Now, this graham cracker layer is thicker than my chocolate layer at this point, so I'm using my spatula to break the fall of the soap into the mold. Once I've got one layer down, I'm going to add the rest of the soap into the mold where it needs to be by spooning it in with my spatula. Now, this spatula I got from the Dollar Tree, and actually it's not one that I usually reach for, but for soaps like this it works out great. It holds a nice amount of soap. You can put a good amount into the mold right where it needs to be. And then when I have all the soap in the mold, it's very rigid, so I can use it to create a nice flat top on this soap. Make sure that all of my bars are going to be a nice even universal size. Once I've done that, I am going to tap it down on my work surface to get that top as flat as I can and get out any air bubbles that might be in my soap. And then as with all of my soaps, I'm going to use the back of a spoon and create a nice textured top for my little marshmallows to sit on. Now, this soap, I don't want the texture to go very far down. I just want it to be fairly flat with just a little bit of interest on top. So I am making sure not to push my spoon too far into the mold. It is now time to add those little marshmallowy embellishments right onto the top of this soap. Look how adorable they look. I really love the look of these marshmallows. And I'm using my ruler there to make sure that I get them situated in the right place so that I won't cut them when I cut this soap. Here is a nice close-up look at the top of this bar. I just love the simplicity of it, those cute little marshmallows on that graham cracker base. It looks awesome. So it's the next day and time to cut this bar. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my soap with my multi-bar cutter and make sure we're not chopping into any of those cute little marshmallows. And then I'm going to pull the top off my soap cutter down, and we will take a look at the inside of this soap and see what it looks like. This soap smells absolutely amazing. Given the amount of fruit essential oils that I used, they have held beautifully, and it smells so good and sweet and delicious. And look at those little chocolatey dribbles down that marshmallow layer and the ooey gooey marshmallow that's dribbling down to the graham cracker base. This soap looks delicious, and I just love the way it turned out. I am thrilled that I managed to get those drops in exactly how I wanted, and that it didn't move too quickly given the heat in my studio. I don't have air conditioning in my studio right now. We don't normally get days that hot. Let's finish up by taking a look at some photos of this finalized soap. So that graham cracker crust did lighten up a little bit, and those chocolate dribbles look so good. Let me know in the comments if you put your chocolate above the marshmallow or below it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.